Hi there, my name is Matt Oliver, and I want to tell you about a project and a decision tool application that we've been working on at the University of Delaware to warn users of the bay, whether they be shippers or builders or commercial fishers, about their risk of encountering Atlantic sturgeon. Atlantic sturgeon are listed on the Endangered Species Act. The purpose of this application is to give a near real-time forecast of where we think people have the risk of encountering Atlantic sturgeon with their gear that's in the water. And so I want to run through this application that puts out near real-time forecasts of where this species is in Delaware waters and surrounding waters. The first thing that you should know about this is that this product is developed for mature Atlantic sturgeon, so big ones, not juveniles, using historic telemetry observations matched to date, bathymetry, which is depth, sea surface temperature, and ocean color coming from NASA's MODIS Aqua satellite. It's coming from NASA's MODIS Aqua satellite, and we're also using the VIIRS satellite. There are 5 regions that we are giving warnings for, which is the Delaware River, the Upper Delaware Bay, the Middle Delaware Bay, Lower Delaware Bay, and Atlantic Ocean, and each of them is divided into 5-meter depth bins, which is approximately 15 feet. Just as a bit of background, you'll see your encounter risk is color-coded as green, yellow, red. Green means there's an extremely low risk of there being Atlantic sturgeon in the region. Yellow means there's probably an 80 to 90% chance that there are Atlantic sturgeon in the coded region, and red is there's a much higher chance than that. One of the important things about this forecast system is that it's driven by real-time satellite observations. And so we also want to communicate to our users when we don't have updated satellite observations and what to do about it. And that's right here. So right now, there's a forecast warning for the selected date, which is the 12th of February. Today is the 13th of February, but the last data that we got in was on the 12th of February. And we say, caution, data may be degraded due to lack of satellite coverage in the 3 days leading up to the forecast. We just had a big storm here, so we've had cloud cover of the bay, and we have not had reliable satellite observations. When we haven't had satellite observations, we send this warning out and we say that to use the climatology instead. Use the climatology instead. So this is your first place to look, because right now we are predicting, based on yesterday's data, that there is a significant amount of risk of encountering Atlantic sturgeon 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th on the way out. But of course, we're saying to ignore this and to use the climatologies instead. But we still want to go through what these panels are. So this is data, the date selected, which is the last day that data came in. And it's a map that you can interact with and zoom in. It's a 1 kilometer resolution map that you can move around and play with. So this was data that came in on the 12th. This was our forecast for the 13th. So today's the 13th. This is what we'd be looking at today if we had plenty of satellite data coming in, the 14th and the 15th. Of course, we can go back and we can select a previous date, which didn't have a warning, I think maybe on the January 25. You'll see that there was no forecast warning for the selected date, so we think the data is very good. This is what our forecast was. We were not forecasting any Atlantic sturgeon January 25th, 26th, 27th, or 28th for the data that came out that day. Again, there was no forecast risk. So if we go back to forecasted day here, we do have a forecast risk, and we say to be careful and to use the climatology instead. Okay, where can you see the climatology? You can click on this tab called Climatologies. If you click on Climatologies for this, the date of our prediction, let's see, we'll pick February 13th. You're going to see that on average, this is what the sea surface temperature is, very cold, right around 5 or 6 degrees. What our model prediction is, and our risk categories on average for the last 15 years have been no Atlantic sturgeon, which is pretty consistent with observations. So here's our predictions. We've given you a warning, and we're saying, look at the climatology. You would click on the tab and look on the climatology and say, on average, there's not going to be any here. Now, some of you may be asking, what is this model based on? This model is based on, if we go back to the predictions tab, is based on this paper right here by Matthew Breese, Satellite-Driven Distribution Models of Endangered Atlantic Sturgeon. And if you click on that, that will bring you to this tab, and you are welcome to read that. It's open source. It shouldn't cost you anything to get. Otherwise, there is a more succinct summary of the research in a news article that came out in UDaily, University of Delaware's newspaper. And that gives you a little video about the text alert system that goes along with this. And this is a much shorter article that tells you how the system works. So if we go back to this tab here, one thing to know about this, this is one prong of the Atlantic Sturgeon Risk of Encounter decision tool that we're putting out. There's actually 3 ways we're putting out the data. One is through this app. The second way that we put it out is through SMS text messaging. So you can contact myself here or Matt Breese at the University of Delaware and ask to be signed up to get text. So as new data comes in, we can send you a text warning. And let me just show you what that might look like. So for example, if we go to the climatologies, if you got a text today, it wouldn't say anything. It would say there was no medium or high risk of encountering, so you would just get that little risk there. But if, let's say you're there during a time when Atlantic sturgeon are typically in the bay, which is in May, so we'll click on May, you're going to see now on average the sea surface temperature is this. On average, this is what our model is putting out where Atlantic sturgeon are, so green is more Atlantic sturgeon. And these are our risk categories. So we're saying there's an extremely high risk of encountering Atlantic sturgeon here in these red zones, also fairly high in the yellow zones, and you would get a text that looks like this for May 5. It would first go through the risk categories. Medium risk is going to be in the river, less than 16 feet deep, the upper bay less than 16 feet deep, middle bay less than 16 feet, lower bay less than 16 feet. Our high risk would be river more than 16 feet, our upper bay more than 16 feet, and mid bay more than 16 feet deep, and lower bay more than 16 feet deep. So that is what you would get. So if you know where you are generally in the bay and your depth, you would know your risk categories. So there's the texting, there's the app, and then there's also the online flyer. So if you got a text, you would also get a link to an online flyer. Those flyers are also here for each day. So here's an example. Here's a prediction made on February 12th. It's for February 12th. It's made on February 12th. Remember, again, this one we've already given you a warning that possibly this is a bad prediction. That would come across in the text as well. And here's the different reporting regions. Here's the river, the upper bay, the middle bay, and the lower bay. And again, this tells you a little bit about the product, and this little image would load very quickly on your smartphone. So there's 3 ways to interact with this. You can come look at this web page and go through the different tabs to inspect what the model is doing and what your risk might be. There's an automatic texting service if there is a high risk going out, and that text service would then link you back to these flyers, which are here as well. You can look at all of our historic forecasts through time, all the way back through 2018, actually back through 2017 a bit too. And you can look at what the model details are doing over each of the date, and also what the climatologies are doing on average. So if you have a plan over the next 3 days, you may want to look at the real-time predictions. If you have a plan for interacting with the bay or being on the bay, maybe a month from now, you may want to pick one of the average dates here, on March 31st. That's generally on average what it looks like and what the text would be. So it's a way to help users plan, not only for year-round activities, but know what the most recent warnings are. You're welcome to read the science paper that we put out, came out in ICES Journal of Marine Science, sort of the summary of that in UDaily, or contact us directly if you're interested in being part of this program. Thank you very much.